Welcome back, guys. Episode 6 of What's the Catch. We got a little new situation going on. We're on Zoom for the first time ever. It will continue to be on Zoom because the co-host Kyle is going back to college, so he won't be able to come over and do the podcast in person. But Kyle today can't be on the show, so we brought in a guest star, Egan Adler. Known him my whole life pretty much. Goes to ASU for sports journalism, so he's very well in this field. He knows a lot about this, so you can say what's up.
What's going on? I'm excited to be here on What's the Catch. Really impressed on what you guys have been doing so far, episode 6.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we don't got that much to talk about this week. You know, it's kind of in the middle of everything. Basketball is the main sport right now. Football is coming to an end. Baseball is starting to get a little more signings, not the MVP, Hall of Fame stuff. So we'll start off with the basketball and the Bradley Beal discussion. I mean, Egan, what do you think about that?
Well, Bradley Beal's in a very difficult situation, right? Wizards have been the worst team in the NBA up to this point. What are they, like 3-11 or something along those lines? Yeah. Beal's averaging 35 right now. He's been the best scorer in the league this year, and there's been constant times where we have seen him put his hands over his head watching the game. It's been terrible. It's been horrible in Washington, and it looks like Beal wants out. The Wizards haven't made that kind of go yet. They haven't turned the trigger, but we'll see what's going to happen.
It doesn't look like he wants out. He definitely wants out. I mean, someone asked him, "Are you frustrated with Washington struggles?" And he said, "Is the sky blue?" Like, obviously, if you're a competitor like that and you're at the top of your game, you're going to want out. I mean, Bradley Beal has been tearing up the league, and I think he deserves a fair shot at a chip. I mean, and Westbrook is just not the same. I mean, he's terrible this year. God awful. Houston made a great trade getting rid of him, in my opinion. I don't know about you.
Well, yeah, the trade is – I mean, it's looking like Houston is fitting well with John Wall, and John Wall is loving that new spot. And Westbrook's been kind of hurt and a little bit of the resting going on. He hasn't played his best basketball. But the interesting part about Beal is how well he fits in with different teams. He's such an elite off-the-ball player and on-the-ball player, a great shooter, can create his own shot. And he's like one of the best players in the NBA. He's a top 25 player. And he's the type of guy that you can add to a contending team to put them to that championship level.
Yeah, because everyone nowadays seems like needs a big three. I mean, it started with Steph, Clay, and you could say Draymond. That was the original big three. And then they got KD, which put them over the edge. And then you see Brooklyn forming their big three. You got KD, Harden, Kyrie. They're looking all right. And I think the perfect fit is the Lakers with AD and LeBron. I mean, I don't know how they would make it work, but I don't see that team losing in the finals. I already got the Lakers winning again against the Nets with their big three. If they get Beal, it just puts them over the top.
Oh, 100%. If Beal's on the Lakers team, that may be one of the greatest teams of all time.
Yeah,
it's currently, they're the best team in the league right now.
Yeah, I know. And, like, you see the Nets with these superstars, but I'm still taking LeBron and AD over them. It's just they just mesh so well, and the team goes so deep. They got Schroeder, they got Harrell, they got Kuzma, they got so many players, they got so many options. I just don't see the bench of the Nets and the stars keeping up with that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, the defense has been an issue in Brooklyn so far early in this Kyrie, Harden, Durant era, and that's the difference with the Lakers. They're a top 3 defensive team in the league, and they got AD, who's a top 3 defensive player, and LeBron, who's obviously LeBron. But I don't think that they're going to have the pieces to get Beal. I just really don't. The first-round picks are kind of meaningless. I don't even know how many they even have for the future years coming. They don't have those young talent like they had with Ingram and Ball that they could, get. Like they made that deal. They got AD. They made that big deal. I don't think the Lakers, as great as a fit as it would be, I don't see the Lakers pulling the trigger. I don't see the Wizards accepting a deal from them. My dream scenario for Bradley Beal, and I think the best fit for him, is Miami.
Really?
Oh, 100%. Miami with Jimmy Butler, Beal, and Bam Adebayo. I can't even say his name.
Yeah.
The 3 of them together, they're missing that best scorer. As good as Butler is, as good as Bam is, none of them are elite scorers. Beal is. And they have the package to do it. I see a deal around Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and then Precious Okinawe, whatever his last name is. And if you put 3 first-round picks in there, I see Washington accepting that deal, and I see Beal as a Miami Heat.
Yeah, that deal would definitely have to involve Hero. Hero's got to go. And I mean, if you're Miami, you want the proven player. I think you go with the proven player 100%. You made the finals last year. You came short. That's what you're missing. And Beal will provide that too. He's a proven scorer. He's good on defense. He he's always playing. I mean, him and Jimmy will mesh very well. And then you got Bam in the middle, just clearing it out. I mean, getting all the rebounds, playing defense. And I think that team will have a good shot at making the finals again. I mean, I don't know. We'll see, but I think that's a good fit for him. I don't think the Clippers is a good fit for Beal personally. I don't really like him on the Clippers.
No, they also don't have the pieces to get the deal done.
Yeah, I think next best to the Heat of having the pieces is actually the Lakers because you could package Schroeder and Harrell and then the first round picks, maybe even Kuzma. But I don't know if the Lakers would even do that, and I don't know if the Wizards would do that actually.
No, they wouldn't do it just because those aren't young guys on good contracts. They're older now, like Schroeder and Harrell are kind of late 20s, and Schroeder's past that, being that young guy, and that's what Miami can offer. Miami can offer a Hero, who was one of the best rookies in the league this year and has played very good last year and has played very good this year. They can offer Robinson, who's become one of the best three-pointers. They can offer those 3 first-round picks. And he fits. Him playing off the ball in Miami with Goran Dragic, who's great at giving the ball around.
Yeah,
Butler,
he's a great player, too.
They have such a good defensive core. And if you can put an offensive guy like Beal, who I just think off the ball, the efficiency rating of him shooting and getting a shot will be astronomical. I mean, like it.
Yeah, I could see them going far again. I mean, who says they can't go to the finals again? I mean, who says they can't beat the Nets if they get that, you know? I mean,
oh, exactly.
Like, the Nets are good, but like you said, they struggled with defense all year. We saw a young Colin Sexton destroy them. And Bradley Beal is better. I mean, it's just the Nets have to figure some things out. And say Beal does go to the Lakers, I think the Nets just truly threw away their future for nothing. I mean,
I wouldn't go that far. They got Harden. I think the Nets need interior presence. That's their biggest issue. Because Jordan's been kind of playing soft as a rim protector. They need rim protecting. They need paint presence. That's what they need. They were talking about a deal with JaVale McGee or maybe with Kevin Love with Cleveland, which would be a very good fit for both of those guys if they didn't end up in Brooklyn. But for Beal, I'm thinking he's going to either Miami. I like Dallas. I think Dallas is another option. Okay. And even New Orleans. I think New Orleans could potentially be another option for Beal.
Like trade Lonzo and them? Like,
yeah.
I know they want to get rid of Lonzo.
And now and they have those first-round picks from Milwaukee now that they traded Drew Holiday. So they have a lot of draft capital, and they have young players. Ball, who is still –
Zion.
Yeah, I don't think they wouldn't trade B.I. or Zion. They wouldn't trade
him, but I'm saying if they got Beal, they would have, like, a good team to develop around. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm thinking if you give a deal something around Jackson Hayes and Lonzo Ball, and then you put a couple first-rounders in there, I can see a potential deal in the making.
And the New Orleans is already a good team, and that's what I was trying to say. Like, with Beal, you would then have Zion and B.I., and I feel like that would help B.I.'s game improve because him and Zion, like, they kind of try to control the offense, and with Beal, he would take some of the pressure off because he's such a good scorer, and it would give them more wide open shots like B.I. in this instance.
It 100% spread the floor, right? And New Orleans is missing that. They're missing that extra elite playmaker, and not just playmaker in the terms of passing, but playmaker and creating his own shot. Ingram's very good at it. Zion's very good at getting in the paint, but neither of them are the caliber player that Beal is.
Yeah, and that's why I think Beal really needs to get out, in my opinion. And another person who needs to get out is actually Drummond. I mean, I'm hearing like Drummond's unhappy. I think they're kind of moving on to Jared Allen in a way. I mean, what do you think they do with Drummond?
Well, Drummond's an interesting case. It was a very surprising deal last year that the Pistons flipped him to Cleveland. Nobody expected it coming, especially because Cleveland always kind of has a logjam at that big man position. And Drummond's one of the best rebounders in the game. He probably is the best rebounder in the game.
Always has been. Every year. He leads the league in rebounds. I mean, it's just incredible what he does. You know what I mean?
Drummond's a great player, but Allen's the future. We all know that. Drummond's going to demand a contract in the offseason. I'm interested to see what they do with him. I don't know what you can get for him because he's kind of that middle type of guy that takes up the salary of a max contract but isn't good enough to be a max contract. So he's
Okay.
kind of that middle caliber guy, but it should be interesting to see what Cleveland does, especially that Cleveland's been competing in the East.
Yeah, Cleveland's looking. I tweeted it. I really like their young core. I mean, I love Sexton. I really think Sexton, maybe because he's on my fantasy team, might be a little biased, but he's a great player. And then they got Garland and they got Jared Allen. I mean, they got a future. You can't say they don't have a future. I mean, that
No,
would be unfair to say.
100%.
And
Sexton's a baller, man. Sexton is a
Sexton
baller.
is a baller. I mean, and he really didn't like take those steps at first, and people were like, "Oh my God, it's just Colin Sexton." But like everyone should have known, he 3v5 people in college. Like
Oh my
if
God.
if you do that, you got to be a baller. I mean, come on, you're going 3 against 5. I don't care, and he's fatigued the whole game. Come on,
He was a
I just,
demon in Alabama.
I mean, I think
Great coaching there too, though.
and he's starting to show like that Sexton. He's starting to show he is that guy. He's the guy for Cleveland. He's the future, and I think packaging Drummond. I don't know what they could get. Like you said, I heard maybe Drummond to the Nets, but I don't think that's realistic. I really don't. I mean, who knows where he would go? The Nets do need a big man. If they get him, that could be interesting because he is one of the best rebounders. He'll help them on defense a little because DeAndre Jordan has been struggling this year, not been a good player. I mean, it could go with age, but he's just not been the greatest. So we'll see. I mean, next we'll talk about your Sixers and the Lakers game. What'd you think about that? I know you were going crazy probably.
Mr. Tobias Harris coming up in the clutch, 3 seconds left in the game, gets the matchup on Caruso, the matchup that everybody wanted if you're a Sixers fan, and he hits that fadeaway jumper, that little step back fadeaway, clean. You just saw the swoosh, and it just looks so clean. The Sixers, I think, right now, they're the number 1 team in the East. They just beat the number 1 team in the league on prime time. Everybody keeps calling them out. Everybody keeps saying that they haven't competed in the playoffs, which is true. They haven't got there yet. They haven't gotten past that.
They're young. They're young.
They are young. And I don't like the slander that the Sixers get. And this is why. One, they have a rebuilt front office with Daryl Morey. They have a new coach in Doc Rivers, who is one of the best in the business, has won a championship, never got over that hump with LA. But again, he was consistently in the playoffs, and he took a Boston team in 2008 and won a world championship. Second, look at that starting lineup in that rotation. The Sixers have never had that much depth, and they finally put the right guys around Simmons and Embiid to succeed. Seth Curry has been one of the best shooters in the league so far. Danny Green has struggled at times, but he's played his role really well. Dwight Howard coming off great off the bench. Tyrese Maxey, their rookie, has played great. Tobias Harris has developed his defensive game to a new level while putting up 20 points a game. This is a well-rounded, good rotational team that's been playing good basketball and has the MVP of basketball right now at Joel Embiid at center.
Oh, God. All right, so let's talk about this game. I mean, I know during the offseason, me and you talk a lot, and we were talking, and you were like, the Sixers need a 3-and-D guy. That's who they need. They need the 3-ball because when you got a point guard who can't shoot and Ben Simmons, you need the 3-ball. And I think Seth Curry has done amazing with that. Danny Green, we have seen struggle. I mean, everyone sees the videos of him going to the fans, "Oh, I still got rings, though." But that's not what you should be focusing on right now, Danny Green. You should be focused on winning a ring with this team. And they did just beat the best team in basketball, in my opinion, too.
Crazy stat for you. Joel Embiid is shooting better from 3 than Stephen Curry.
Is he really?
He's shooting 40% right now. Curry's at 39. Seth Curry is third in the league, I think, at 51% from 3. This team is super good. They can spread the floor. They have depth. They have defensive presence from bench to top with Thibault coming off the bench. Simmons is a top 10 defender. Embiid's a top 5 defender. Danny Green's great at it. Harris is great. This team is super good.
I mean, Joel Embiid is a maniac on defense. He's a maniac. Same with Ben Simmons. I like Ben Simmons. I'm a proud fan of Ben Simmons. I think if he can develop a shot, I don't know how he hasn't. I don't know what he's doing. He's got to develop it. Even a decent shot. I mean, he doesn't have to make it all the time, but I think Ben Simmons has such a good build, and especially the way he can pass the ball, it's incredible at his size. I mean, he's like a Walmart version of LeBron, in my opinion. I
He
mean, that
is.
might that might be a crazy take. I don't know. It might
It's
upset some
not.
people,
He's the
but
young king, bro. That's what LeBron was calling him. LeBron was calling him the young king.
I think if he can develop a decent shot, he will be dominating the league for years. And I'm happy they didn't trade for Harden. I didn't want them to trade
Me
for Harden.
too. I didn't want them to trade for Harden. I love Simmons. He's 24 and Embiid is 26. You have to give this team the chance to compete in the playoffs. The past 2 years ago, they took the eventual champions Raptors to Game 7 on the last shot. And last year they were
And it
hurt.
went in and out. Yeah.
Exactly. And last year the whole rotation was hurt. Simmons didn't play. It was just a mess, and Brett Brown got fired. But this year, watch out for the Sixers. I said on my other podcast, my basketball podcast, that my hot take for the year was the Sixers were going to finish with the 1 seed in the East and at least make the Eastern Conference Finals. And I'm fairly confident to say that I still believe that's going to happen.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So say they don't make the Eastern Conference Finals. You think it's a disappointment of a year?
Yes, 100%. At that point, though, I wouldn't say blow it up. I don't say blow it up.
No, you can't blow it up.
You give this core 2 to 3 years a window to compete, but an Eastern Conference Finals appearance is a necessity for the Sixers this year.
Fine. The Nets?
Nets or Bucks right now. I'm a little worried about the Nets because the defense worries me. As you can shoot all day, but what happens when that one day when you're not, those shots aren't falling, right? You can always rely on defense in basketball. Defense is day in and day out. Offense can come and go at times.
I mean, they don't say defense wins championships for no reason. And
exactly.
Say if the Nets do match up against the Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think the Nets are at a disadvantage in a way. I mean, you could put Embiid on anyone. You could put Simmons on anyone. I mean, and you could put Harris on Kyrie. I would say you could put him on Kyrie. I would think he would.
No, you would probably put Simmons on Harden. I would say Simmons on Harden. You would
KD
put Harris.
On Embiid.
You probably put Harris on Durant because Embiid's too big. Durant's too quick. Embiid would just play your help on the drive. You would honestly, you might slide Matisse Thybulle into that lineup. Maybe you'd give Thybulle the matchup on Harden and put Simmons on Durant, and you put Danny Green on Kyrie.
I was thinking you put Simmons on Durant. I think that's your best shot because Simmons is the size, he can move as fast. That's the only thing. I mean, they have a great matchup, but Embiid's one of the best defenders. But the thing is, KD can shoot lights out. So, like, you need someone like Simmons who could stay with him to help and stuff. You know.
Well, either way, you're not stopping Harden, Kyrie, and Durant from scoring, right?
Oh yeah, you gotta score.
But
you gotta be able to score.
You're not stopping them from scoring, but you can do enough to control it, which is going to be the most important part for the Sixers, right? It's going to be controlling teams on defense and getting good shots on offense, playing good basketball, smart team basketball, and that's their recipe for success.
Yeah, I think the Sixers definitely have a chance this year. Let's look on the other side, the Western Conference. The Lakers, they didn't play bad last night. You lose on a game winner, you can't be that terrible. You can't be that mad. I mean, Anthony Davis has been in a little bit of a slump recently. I think LeBron's got to pick him up. But you want a player to slump now. You don't want a player to slump at the end of the year or in the playoffs, in the finals. You want them to slump at the beginning of the year where nothing's really on the line. I mean, the Lakers are a great team and a great organization. They're going to find a way to make the playoffs, especially with LeBron in the lineup.
They'll probably finish as the 1 seed. They'll easily they have the best plus-minus differentiate in basketball right now. They are by far, it's not even close to the best team in basketball.
Oh, yeah.
I think they'll finish at the 1 seed, but even if they don't, they're still the favorite out of the West. A lot of exciting things in LA for both teams. Clippers and Lakers are 2 of the top 3 teams in the West. But the most interesting thing in the West right now is how the Nuggets are faring, as well as Jokic has been playing. He's playing at an MVP level. And they struggled a little bit out of the gate. They kind of gotten hot late. They've won 5 in a row. It's going to be really interesting to see 3, 4, 5, 6 in the West, right? Because you probably have Clippers and Lakers 1, 2. But then
Yeah.
you have the Jazz, you have the Mavericks, you have Portland, you have Denver, even Houston, if they can make a rise back in the standings. There's a lot of interesting things going on in the West from 3 to honestly 8.
I mean, even the Jazz have been playing great without Donovan Mitchell. I mean, they're missing their best player and they're winning. I mean, sure they played the Knicks, but the Knicks have been playing good too.
The Knicks have
And
been playing fairly well. Knicks are the best defensive team in basketball this year as of right now.
I mean, you have to worry about the Jazz. You can't count the Jazz out. You can't count the Nuggets out, like you said. They just got back Michael Porter Jr. And you can't forget they made the Western Conference Finals last year. Came back from 3-1 twice or three times, I'm pretty sure. Like you can't. And Jokic, like you said, is playing ridiculous. I mean, it's him or Embiid right now for the MVPs. Everyone knows that. I mean, it's also early in the season. Was it 20 games in? But like, then you got Jamal Murray. You got Michael Porter Jr. back. I just think you think, like you said, Clippers and Lakers 1-2, but you can't count these lower seeds out. And we saw that last year when the Clippers got too confident and they blew the lead. Like everyone wanted the Lakers Clipper matchup, but if you count a team out and play down to them, it's never going to work. And that's what Doc Rivers did wrong with the Clippers in the playoffs last year. He didn't tell them keep your foot on the gas. He let them slow down. I mean, yeah, the playoff P was showing. I mean, Paul George, he has something to prove this year.
Pandemic P.
Yes, he has something to prove this year in the playoffs, and he knows that.
He's been proving it so far this year. He's been very, very good this year.
I mean, he's been saying all over the media, I know I got something to prove. I know
and he's been proving it. He's been proving everybody wrong, as he should.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. But I think that's enough on basketball. I mean, next we'll talk about the Baseball Hall of Fame inductions. I know you were excited about that and how interesting that was. I mean, what do you think? Did you think that Kurt Schilling and Barry Bonds should have made it, or no?
It's a very difficult subject to kind of make a decision on, right? I was very excited on Tuesday to see the Hall of Fame results. I was not surprised. I didn't think anybody was going to get in. If anybody was going to get in, it was going to be Schilling.
Okay.
And the cases between Schilling and then Bonds and Clemens are similar, but just so different at the same time, right? Because Schilling, Bonds, and Clemens, no doubt, all three of them have the statistics to be Major League Baseball Hall of Famers. Clemens and Bonds obviously are two of the top 10 greatest players to ever do it, and Schilling's probably the greatest postseason pitcher to ever throw. I think he's like an 11-1 in the postseason with a sub-ERA, sub-2 ERA, and he has the bloody sock game, which is one of the most famous postseason pitching performances ever. But for Schilling, his issue is the off-the-field issues. Obviously, Schilling is known to be, honestly, to say it in the best way possible, he is a disgusting man. He has said, honestly, some very disturbing things that you just do not want to hear out of any human being. He's been called racist and homophobic and all those type of things, and there is very much truth to those sayings. But the difference between Schilling and Bonds and Clemens is Schilling didn't cheat. And Kurt Schilling, no matter the type of man he may be off the field, he deserves to be in the Hall based off of his playing career. I don't think there's any other argument that you could really say that Schilling doesn't belong to be there.
Okay, but do you think, like, going into the voting, like, do you think they take into account, like, off the field stuff? Like,
oh well, that's the if Schilling didn't have off the field like commentary issues, he would have gotten 90% of the vote.
Oh, you really think that way?
Oh, he would have been a first or second ballot Hall of Famer.
So he's pretty.
He was that good.
Make it right.
Well, Schilling said he told the baseball writers he requested his name to be taken off the ballot. He said, "quote unquote, take me off the ballot, give me to the Veterans Committee where there's actually smart guys making decisions."
So it sounds like he's annoyed, but if you're that great of a player, you feel like you deserve the recognition, and if even off, I guess you have to nowadays, especially, take into account off the field antics. I mean, if you're going based off playing ability, like you said, he'd probably be in there. But he definitely.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but like I guess you gotta watch what you're saying, and we know that in this day and age, everyone knows that, and you can't just be making those like comments like that. And I guess he grew up in a different era, so maybe that goes
It's not
into it.
even that. It's not even a different era thing because Schilling knows Schilling should be in the Hall. But you know what's different about Schilling? If he gets in the Hall, and he does deserve to be there, unlike other players, you're going to see his name in the first 10 minutes. Chris Rose, from Intentional Talk on MLB Network, he said it best. He said, if you see Schilling in there, what I'm going to tell my kids, the first 10 minutes is I'm going to tell them how disgusting of a human being Kurt Schilling is. And then that last minute's going to be about his baseball career. Yes, he deserves to be there. And yes, he will be treated the way it deserves to be treated because he is talking so nasty about certain groups of people. But he deserves to be in the Hall. His face deserves a plaque.
Yeah, I know, but like we said, you just gotta watch what you say. I mean, like you said about that story, that's what he's gonna be remembered as now. Sure, you could be the greatest pitcher of all time. Like, I'm not saying he is, but you could. And if you're off the field doing terrible things, what are you gonna be remembered as? It takes one bad thing to be remembered as a terrible person. You could do a million good things, but that's just how society is. And that definitely affected him and has affected his life now because he's upset. He's like, I'm a great baseball player. I should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame, but you weren't a great person. So we'll see how it goes.
We will. And Bonds and Clemens are honestly the more polarizing topics because obviously they cheated. Obviously they take steroids. Nobody is even debating it. And Bonds and Clemens have been very quiet about this whole process because they know they cheated. And they know that anything they say will only hurt their case further. And many people argue Bonds, Clemens, Hall of Famers, and nobody's doubting that they're two of the top 10 players ever. But Major League Baseball right now is setting a precedent for the future. If you cheat, if you take advantage of our PED system, like they did, because in 1991, PEDs were banned from the sport. So they knew what they were doing was illegal. If you take advantage of it, you will not be in the Hall. You will not be enshrined with baseball's best. And I don't see anything changing with Clemens and Bonds in the future. And I think what's going to be even more significant is now that A-Rod's coming up next year.
I was just about to say that. I think that's going to affect him. And you have
100%.
You have to set that precedent because if you don't, people are going to keep taking it. And you don't want the great players to take that. Imagine Mike Trout was taking steroids. Imagine what that would do to him, you know? Like, if you're a great baseball player, you'll be a great baseball player. And that's what they prove it. I mean,
that's the
Mike
terrible
Trout.
part. That's the terrible part about Bonds and Clemens and even A-Rod. They were all incredible before they were steroid. Bonds was an MVP. A-Rod was the best shortstop in baseball in Seattle. Clemens was the best pitcher in baseball for a long time. 7 Cy Youngs for Clemens, 7 MVP for Bonds. I think A-Rod has 3. These are 3 of the top 10 greatest talents that the game has ever seen. But with Bonds and Clemens not getting in, A-Rod will not get in and follow in that same footpath. And we'll just have to see what it goes from there. It will be an interesting – there might be another shutout next year. Honestly, there might be another shutout for baseball in the Hall of Fame.
You don't think Big Papi?
Big Papi, again, he has his name linked to steroids in 2003 on the report. Again, he's never been accused and convicted the same way Bonds and Clemens and A-Rod did. And I think Big Papi will eventually get in, but I don't think he'll get in next year.
I think Big Papi definitely has the best chance. I definitely think Big Papi has the best chance. I mean, like you said, maybe not next year, but maybe. You never know. Because he's unlike, what's his name? Schilling. He's like known for off the field, like being good. Like when he was like shot, like when he was away, like people were going crazy. I mean, people were so upset. I mean, I think he has the best shot next year in the class.
He does. He definitely does because Big Papi's beloved in Boston and the New England area. He's beloved in the sport. He's the greatest DH to ever do it. His postseason numbers is a top 5 postseason hitter ever.
Yeah,
he's a World Series MVP.
He definitely
does. I'm interested to see how his name linked to steroids, obviously not in the same way that Bonds, Clemens, and A-Rod is. I'm interested to see how his name being linked to steroids plays a role in how he's being inducted.
I mean, I definitely don't think it will be as bad as these guys because
no, it won't. It won't be. But the crucial thing is how much of a role will it play, and we'll find out next year with the voters, and we'll see how the public ballots come out next year because usually the public ballots usually lead towards steroid users. They usually put steroid users in. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, but I mean, so that's really like baseball. I mean, not much else happened. I mean, Romoto re-signed with the Phillies, but and the Mets trade Mats.
Yes,
I
Mets
think
did trade Mats today for 3 prospects, or last night, I think.
Yeah, last night. I think they're opening up space for Bauer. I think that's what they're doing.
Well, yeah,
much.
they said they offered him a 3 to 4 year, just under the AAV or the average annual
Something
highest
like
salary, the AAPV or AAV. Bauer's looking to get somewhere between 32, which was Cole, or 36, which was Cole, and 32, which was Strasburg. Something in that, trying to break that record. And the Mets giving up Mats for prospects is maybe opening that hole for him because they have depth at that position. And then the Phillies with Realmuto. I predicted this back in December.
Expected. Yeah, that was expected. I mean, that's why the Mets like went from James McCann. I mean, because they didn't want to risk not getting a catcher, and then Realmuto like resigns, and then they're screwed in the catcher position. Oh yeah, so they went with the safe route and they signed James McCann.
They didn't want to drop. They didn't want to drop the $115 million that Realmuto.
Yeah, they wanted the money for Bauer.
Agreed.
Everyone knows the Mets want Bauer. I saw that the Angels have no shot. That's why I read.
Yeah, because their pitching coach, Mickey Callaway, has had issues with Bauer when he was back in Cleveland in 2013 to 2017. Their philosophies are very different, and Bauer and Callaway, they said their relationship is beyond fixing, and there's no shot that the Angels get him, which is terrible for the Angels because they're the type of team that needs to go for pitching, but they're in a little bit of salary cap issue. Their owner's never gone over $195 million, and they're sitting at $185 right now. Bauer will push them over the salary cap, so I doubt the Angels would make that move anyway. So right now, the Mets look like the front runner.
I think it's a perfect move for the Mets. You're going to look at their rotation. It's going to be DeGrom, Bowers, Syndergaard's coming back, Stroman. You just got Carrasco from the Indians too. I mean, if they get Bauer, I think that really puts them like.
That's the best rotation in baseball.
It puts them in contention.
It's the best rotation right now.
Yeah, I mean, when they didn't sign Brad Hand, I read that. Don't be mad, Mets fans. There's bigger things to go after, and they meant Bauer. I mean, yeah, we've struggled in the bullpen, but I think personally, Edwin Diaz can turn his career around. I think he has a shot. One year he was the best closer in baseball. He's young. We traded for him. We traded for Robinson Cano. I mean, that's good bad for him that he got like suspended, but good for us. Clears the cap. I mean, I think he can make a comeback. I don't know about you, but I think he can do a decent enough job where he gets the job done and our starters can carry us and our lineup in hitting. Personally.
Hopefully, the Mets will be good for this year. Another team that's really been looking or needs a comeback is the Texans, who are probably in the worst position of any football team in the league right now.
Oh yeah, this is terrible for them. Like all of Houston, it's terrible for. Like, you're losing all your stars. I mean, they signed Dan Cully. He's had a lot of experience, 40 years.
40 years in the league.
But, like, Deshaun Watson doesn't care. Deshaun Watson went today and said, I want out. I want out of here. Get me out. And if you're him, you have to say that. They got no picks. They got no young talent. They got Laramie Tunsil.
They're a mess.
They got Will Fuller, who's always hurt.
Free agent. He's a free agent this year.
I mean, Deshaun's getting out. I don't think Deshaun will ever play a game for the Texans again. We've talked about this on a couple episodes, but what's your take, honestly?
Well, before I even go into Watson, the funniest thing about the Dan Coley signing, or hiring, I should say, is that he was the wide receivers coach of the Ravens, who were the 32 ranked wide receiving core this season. So you hired the worst wide receiving core. He has 40 years of experience. He's an ultimate professional. He's a great coach in the NFL. But if you wanted to keep Watson around, I don't know if Dan Coley was the solution to that. I think Watson clearly made his point that Dan Coley is not the solution to that. And for Watson, it's right now looking like a 4-team race between the Niners, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bears. All 4 teams have the packages to get the deal done. It's whoever wants to make the best deal. It's probably going to head into a bidding war. But Watson, he's the top 5 quarterback in the league. He's the type of guy that can completely alter a franchise.
And definitely alter a franchise.
I know you guys talked about it a lot, but I'm interested to see where Watson go. Right now, it's looking like the Jets and the Dolphins are the 2 leading competitors for Watson. He did say that.
We had this debate last week. Kyle had some fake source saying he didn't say that. Had no proof whatsoever. He did not show me no tweets. But you got on Twitter, Allen Robinson, begging to go to New York. So he's begging. He's like saying, tweeting emojis. You got all the team tweeting emojis. But I'm pretty sure if Deshaun Watson goes to New York, Allen Robinson will follow. But is that the best thing for the Jets? Or do they go for someone like Joe Tooney and Kenny Golladay, who's a cheaper option? You still get a star wide, and you fix your interior line problem.
Well, I love Robinson. Robinson is only 27, which amazes me.
I love Allen Robinson.
I think Robinson is a top 10 receiver in the league, and as good as Golladay and those other guys was, nobody makes a difference in the ball game like Allen Robinson will. Yeah. He's played with some of the most horrible quarterbacks in the league
he still
the past few years, and he's a 1,000-yard receiver every year. He had a great season this year. He's great off the ball. He has great hands. He's a great route runner. He's an intelligent football player, and possibly pairing him, this is all hypothetical, but possibly pairing him with Deshaun Watson with the Jets, that's as good as it can get for Jets fans. And if you could get that done with how much cap space the Jets do have,
and they can get it done, they can.
It's something that they should pull that trigger, because there's not many times in a franchise's history that somebody like Watson and Robinson you can put those guys together at the same time, and you can still keep your financial stability intact.
And you could still keep your draft capital. You still have Darnold. I don't know if the deal will include Darnold, but you'll still have Darnold to trade if it doesn't. And you also, like I said, you could go Joe Tooney or Golladay. I would prefer Robinson. I just think Robinson is a sure thing, Galladay's always hurt. Sure, Tooney would be great for the interior line, but you could draft that. You could find late round picks. You could find second round pick guards who could develop, So I think personally,
Robinson's a decision maker, or he's a difference maker, not a decision maker. He's a true difference maker.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see. Some people think Watson might not be able to get out. Texans won't let him. And then we could see something like the Le'Veon Bell. He doesn't play. And we don't want that to happen. I'm not just saying that as a Jets fan. I'm saying that as a football fan. You don't want top 5 QB not to play. Why would you want that? I think it's best if the Texans do trade. They could get a lot. It could help them rebuild. And they make him happy too,
Only time will tell how the Houston Texans will continue to surprise us in the world of football, as they have done such a great job of surprising the football world these past couple of years.
Yeah, they definitely have. It's shocking what they've done. At least they got away from Bill O'Brien, right?
And he's sitting in this nice offensive coordinator job under Nick Saban in the best system in college football with the best talent in college football, and he's going to reshape his name, get a better job in the future, and the Texans are effed.
And then he's going to screw that team over too. What else? I think he's not going to change. But I think that's all for today. Egan, thank you for joining us. Kyle will be back next week, but I'm sure we'll have you on the show again. But thank you for giving us your time and giving your input on What's the Catch.
I appreciate you having me. I had a great time, and I look forward to hopping on with Kyle and you and, talking sports in the future.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thank you, guys.